Hi everyone, and thanks for tuning in. I know it's been quite a while since I've made a video, and as many people have experienced huge changes in their lives, well, I have too, to a certain extent. So a lot has changed since we launched the product, and we've been doing all sorts of things such as dealing with supplier issues, apps support, trying to expand, and just manufacturing. Like manufacturing has dealt tremendous blows to the business. It's been very difficult. Now we are working on different ways of dealing with that, but many people have seen that the parts shortage is affecting many companies, and there's now talk of it's getting better. But what people don't realize is it's getting better for companies that are bigger than Titan Labs. We're only a handful of people. We all kind of work remotely and we all work from home. The net effect of that has been that if you have enough money a year ago to order tens of thousands of dollars worth of parts a year out for delivery now, then yeah, you're starting to feel like you can get back to life. Now, people who are at the early side of engineering and prototyping, that's closer to how our businesses operated, and it makes it very, very difficult to source parts. We've had to use many different companies. We've used companies throughout the whole world, suppliers from primarily US, Canada suppliers, but suppliers that primarily source for Japan and China. But also we've tried to use UK suppliers, and we've had huge setbacks and huge luck with that. So we've started to figure that out. It's also been very difficult to make videos at home while I work through a home office and a small manufacturing area at home. Having other people nearby really makes filming difficult. And kind of the third thing is, honestly, because of things like the part shortage and the pandemic, lots of people have been getting out biking. That's been awesome. More people have been using Kommander. More people have been using Kommander outside. I never really thought that aspect of it would be so important. But we thought 5 or 10%. It's much higher than that. The people who communicate with us about either outdoor issues or outdoor upgrades or desires, or that's why they bought the product. So we're getting through all that, and in the meantime, we have taken a bit longer than we expected in, I'll say, version 5 of our firmware and version 2 of our app. And that version 2 of the app now lets you customize your keyboard input. So outdoor mode still works just as it does talking to Cycle computers. The indoor mode, where you're connected on BLE, that now allows you to customize which keys and if there's a shift or a control or something in it. It's fairly intuitive, but there are limitations. So you won't be able to do things like when you hold the key, to cycle through a prescribed series of camera angles or to do multifunction stuff. So that is the limitation. We still have our baked in preset, and that will be the default. But if you go in and turn on the little toggle switch, you can now customize with some modifiers. And I'll walk you through that shortly. We're still working on a bunch of other things that have come up. If you haven't updated your firmware from the very original ones, we certainly ask you to do so. This app will launch, and that'll be version 5. If not, the current app updates to version 2, which did solve a lot of the battery problems. And there has been battery contact issues, no problem admitting that. We've tried to sort through that the best I can, mainly with sending people replacements, especially if they've tried to bend battery contacts. But there have been some firmware bugs that caused false low battery warnings, where they basically look at it and it says 80% and they get a false battery low warning because of a very specific little way of the dual radio happening, and they changed the batteries, and that has related to more battery contact issues and unnecessary changing of the batteries. The current consumption on this thing is low. It should be operating into the thousands of hours on the originally supplied coin cell. So I'm probably going to make a couple more videos in the future of things about that nature, but I'm not going to be doing that so much from a Titan Lab perspective. So one of the big things that has kind of come to fruition is this needs to remain my personal channel, and the Titan Labs will be getting a channel to house all of their manuals, instructions, and stuff like that, especially as we bring on other people to help develop that. But with that, let's just do a quick run through of the app, and everyone look for the update, and hopefully on screen somewhere here now, if you want to get a Kommander for the Black Friday discount, even though I'm a Canadian and we've already had Thanksgiving a month ago, mainly to coincide with the app launch. It's more of an app launch thing. It just happened to be sort of around Black Friday. So let's go through the app right now, and if you don't already have a Kommander, use the code. There's going to be a limited number of this code, but there are going to be a few other specific codes floating around the web that if you're in a particular cycling group or using a particular cycling thing, there may be some codes there. So it's small select groups, but they will exist outside of this. And we've also maintained the DC Rainmaker code, so that one's still there for all the DC Rainmaker readers out there. With that, let's get to it. So the first thing you'll want to do is press a button to wake up your Kommander, open up the new app. As you can see, this should be the same one that will launch, so version 2.0.1. Search for the device. Now we're still unsure about the pairing side of things, but generally we don't seem to need it. So this is still listing firmware version 2. So you can see that it's orange down here in the bottom. So latest firmware is 5. So we want to go to version 5. There you go. So be able to click OK. You need to give it a few seconds for it to reboot. And now we're on version 5. So in here, we can now add user-defined keys. So by hitting that switch and turning that on, we can now customize the keys. We can also customize the jacks. So as I've mentioned before, the jacks are functional. They have hard-coded commands when you're not using custom keys, but you can set them up if you want to add your own custom jacks, or if you want to add your own custom switches. So if we want to go in, you can customize keys, and there are a few keys that are difficult to put in. So we have a hex input for that. So if you're unfamiliar with hex, it's 0 through 9, then A through F, and there's 2 bits. So like, but if we switch it back, you'll see what I mean. So if I want to use the left button for space to activate a power-up, it's key space, and that is hex 2C. And so if we add something like 2D, it's key minus. But most people will be just using this interface, and you can see it, if you type it in there, it will populate if it's an easily shown key. So you can actually make it type out. And then the thing you have to remember, it doesn't show, you can only barely see it here, but you have to hit the save button. And when you do that, it'll pop you out of it. If you disconnect and now reconnect with a desktop computer or a MacBook or whatever, it will be able to emulate those. So if we just connect back to it, you can see everything is still saved here. So it just grabbed those all from the device. So there's nothing saved in the cloud. Every bit of data is your own. When you type anything in here, it is sent from your phone to here, and then we have no idea what you're doing. We've also added in a little key map here so that you understand which is the left and which is considered a right for both the jacks and the buttons. And if you hit info here, you can see that for some of these things like volume control and for the F keys and page up and page down, they won't populate and it's hard to put them in, but these are the hex codes for those. So I'm personally still using the defaults, but that's all you have to do. So just update your firmware and customize. It'll be pretty much exactly the same on Android. So with that, happy customization.